What's up? What's up? What's up? This is the Sugar Hill Gang podcast, and I am your host, the MAS, the TER, the G with the double E, and I'm joined by my boys. I can't do it without them. My home slices, my man's pots and pans. What up, T Dynasty? What's up, T?
Huh?
Yeah, go away. And my man's pots and pans, my homeboy, my right hand. I can't do it without this boy. I got head diggity. I diggity. What up, Dig?
Oh.
What up, Dig? What up, Dig? Yo. All I gotta say, listen, this show keeps just blowing my wig, man. Today's show is, what? We got the two cats that we got on here today. What? When you talk about like music, man, in the world, like the vibration of music, these guys have permeated the world's in so many different forms of music, man. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Coryenemy and Dallas Austin. DALiCO. Wow.
What's happening? What's up? What's up?
What up, Dallas?
I feel bad.
Up,
I don't have no popcorn.
I can't believe I'm on the Legends, bro.
Popcorn ready, man, right there, man.
Yeah, man.
Hey, no, listen, man, listen. The whole purpose of us doing this podcast was for us to meet the people that we have been connected to. Us being around for as long as we've been around, we never really, Mike and I never really exposed ourselves to people. We've been pretty low key for many, many years. So this thing continually blows my mind when I find out how many people that we are. It's like I've been saying, it's like we're like a tree. And then this tree is just keep on reaching, it keeps on rooting out these roots. And then from the roots are leaves, and all of these leaves and all these roots coming back to, where it is that we're at. And I truly am honored, and I'm truly blessed, and I'm truly thankful, man, that you cats are taking the time out, man, to do what you do. Because, let's just start with Cory, man. Just roll off some of the names of the people that you've been involved with, Cory. We gonna start there, just to get people.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having us on here, and you should definitely know that you guys are legends, and I'm honored to be here with you guys shooting the shit. I think it's a great privilege for me. So thank you.
Honor is ours, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. But just give the people an idea, man. Because somewhere in the world there might be somebody that doesn't know what time it is, but I doubt it.
I got you. Yeah, well, I've got an interesting background. Dallas and I met each other like 12 or 13 years ago, and he kind of plucked me out of a weird little indie bubble that was happening in Los Angeles back in the 2007 era. Where electronic music, what everyone now knows as EDM, was just starting to kind of bubble in a small select little couple clubs in Hollywood. And in that world, it was like Steve Aoki starting to come up, and he had a club night called Dim Mak Tuesday Nights, and I used to be a resident DJ in there, and it'd be like, anywhere from 50 to 100 kids in there, and we didn't know what we were doing, and we didn't know it was the beginning of a thing. Skrillex came out of that same thing. Dylan Francis came out of that same thing. We were all just kids, and Dallas, he met me early on in those days, and he had the foresight to see this is something that's going to be big. This is before anyone knew EDM was a thing, and we weren't even calling it EDM at the time. And through that, I got to the privilege to work with a load of these big name DJs before they were big name, and then continue to work with them over the years. People like A-Track, really good friend of mine. We've worked loads over the years. Amazing turntablist. Aoki is one of the ones as well.
Yeah.
And then Dallas kind of just saw me. He's like, who's this weird kid? I looked weird back then too. I wear neon spandex, and I looked like some weird 80s something, I don't know. And
I knew that.
he's like, this kid's with me. He's like, I'm gonna bring this kid with me, and he plucks me out of this weird world and brings me to Atlanta, where I'd never been to Atlanta or anywhere in the South before. And he sits me down in the middle of that culture. And it was a big culture clash for me and a huge learning experience. And I learned so much from Dallas, and I started meeting a lot of people in his world and learning from them. And then I was sharing with them like, hey, check out these new sounds. I remember we worked with Chris Brown one time, and he was like, heard of this thing called dubstep? And this was like before dubstep really took off. And I was like, yeah, I know all about dubstep, man. And we ended up making a dubstep record. Me and Dallas and Chris Brown made a dubstep record. It's the first like pop crossover dubstep record I think that ever come out.
Wow.
I'm sure.
And after that, we started doing. We started doing. It's like, Corey, let's take this amalgamation, because I worked on so much stuff. I worked on everybody. All the TLC records and Boyz II Men and Michael Jackson and all kinds of stuff.
Bro, come on.
And at that time, I was just like,
Listen. As soon as you came on the screen, I was so messed up. I'm looking behind you and seeing all the goodies you got in the back. It's like Toys R Us to me, right? Because I'm going, yeah, oh yeah. And while you was off the screen, I'm all up in the screen going, yeah, I had one of those. Remember that? But it must be interesting, Corey, because they used to call Dallas the kid. That was the kid. Yeah. So you must have been the one that he saw and had to think about that tree, man, because that's specialness, man. Everything that this brother looks at, he looks at with a future purpose. Yeah. From what I can see. And that's looking from the outside in, he sees things to a clear finish. Is that true?
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah, man.
You start with a focus.
How old were you, Corey, when Dallas first picked you up?
I must have been like 23, maybe.
Hell, you look 23 now. What are you talking about?
Well, Dallas looks like he's 23 right now too.
Yeah, he does.
Dallas started when he was like 14, so shoot.
Dallas got a really young start for sure, but I'm 36 years old. I'm just half Japanese, so I'm aging okay, I guess. I don't know.
There you go. So Dallas, of course, again, there's probably not a person on the world that hasn't heard one of your songs. You know what I'm saying? So just give us, just get us to that point, man. Where, what happened? How did Dallas Austin become Dallas Austin? Talk to us about that.
Well, Dallas Austin first, being in Columbus, Georgia, my mom and them had like restaurants and nightclubs where, like 70s bands would come in there and play, and they would leave all their stuff set up. So they leave the clavinet, the drum set, the turntables would be set up for the DJ booth. So I would just in the daytime go play everything. And then down the street was the record shop. And literally the first record I bought was Rappersdelight, period.
No.
And when I would go to this record shop from that point, because I was so into listening to, the Brothers Johnson and George Clinton and all this stuff when I was coming up. And my mom had that soul food restaurant. All the artists used to stop by there and eat. So I would see George Clinton when I was little. I would see Zapp. I would see, all the 70s bands that would come through and play. So when I first heard Rappersdelight, it was a trip because, hearing it come over good times, when you're hearing the record and you say, oh man, this is a trip, because hip hop back then was, was a trip because it was taking 70s breaks and then rapping over them, right?
That's right.
So from that point, every time I just looked at, every Saturday, I'd be like, Mom, and then we'll go back to the record store. And whatever Sugarhill record was out, I would buy it and just take the chance on what it was, because that's the only way you could hear songs back then that was considered rap records, because they wasn't really playing them on the radio and stuff. So especially in Columbus, Georgia,
Right.
So next thing I'll be like Apache. The next thing you get, I'll be like The Message, or be like Scorpio, or be like Freedom, or be like, it just kept going on, and then on. Eighth Wonder, Sequence, just kept going on, and that's when I really was like, I want to have a record. I was sitting there just watching the label spin. I'm like, one day I'm gonna have a label that's spinning like that. I just want to see my label spin around, but it all started with me.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up.
So what you're telling me is that the basis of the reason why you started getting into songwriting and doing what you're doing comes from us and the Sugarhill thing. Is that what you're telling me?
Sugarhill Gang started. Because
Wow.
If you look at what we do now, right? Even what Teddy was doing, even to add rap to a R&B song. You know, when that started to take off, and then what people would do, like, it was like country back then in a way, because somebody do Genius of Love, and somebody do Genius of Love rap, and somebody else do Genius of Love rap. And then, you know, and I actually liked it. Like, I liked when that mode was in. I did some music for the Get Down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
We were talking about that earlier. Cory and I were talking about that earlier. Yeah.
And for me, a person who really lived through that time, it was a trip watching it, because I like the way that they did. I like the way they incorporated the karate and all the stuff that we thought we was doing, was listening to those records back then. And, you know, so it made me, I kind of felt like that's one of the best, I think, you know, depictions I've seen to be done in a way where you think they're going to take it into a pop arena. And to be done abstract like that, to make you really understand how Flash started, you know, marking off the turntables, you know, how hip hop really started, where it came from. You know, I thought that was a good depiction for people who really didn't know it. But that's why I'm here, man. But I don't know if, like, you know, I got into Quincy and the brothers and to Brother Johnson and George Clinton and all that, you know, along the same way. And I started getting into Prince and the Jimmy and Terry's and all that long, you know, as I started getting into the 80s. I think it'd be possible for anybody to say they wasn't influenced by Sugarhill.
Bless your heart.
Dallas, before you hopped on the call, we were talking about how for the younger generations, and myself included, like I didn't really know. For me, like hip hop started with Dr. Dre. I know it didn't, but that's where it started with me. And I was like, okay, this is like hip hop. But it was when we were working on the Get Down that I started learning more about the OG history, right? And I was like, okay, this is what it was. And it was fascinating to me, particularly because I have a big background in disco and soul. And so I was like, these guys, they're sampling all these amazing like records from the 70s that I just love. And then they're flipping them in amazing ways. And actually, when I first started producing music, I was sampling I have a huge vinyl collection of jazz, soul, funk, disco, and I would do the same thing. I would just sample those records and I make the boom bap on that. And I was like, okay, this is dope. But the new generation, a lot of my generation and younger, they don't know the original kind of, and they need to know that. And we were talking, me and G were talking about how that Get Down show like got a lot of things right, and Flash did a great job, but it was kind of watered down for the masses a bit.
But
I think it made a resurgence of interest for a new generation of this era of music. And simultaneously coinciding with that time period, there was a documentary that these guys actually worked on. What was that documentary called, G?
Hip Hop Evolution. Hip Hop Evolution.
Everyone go watch that documentary because it's incredible, and that's where you really can learn the history right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is also the reason why, like I was telling Cory, Dallas, and you know, we talked about this also. The biggest thing for me, you know, because again, I'm these cats eclipse me when it comes to knowledge in music and techno and the whole 9 yards. I'm really the elder statesman of this setup right here. But so this is one of the biggest joys. One of the biggest joys for me of doing this is to physically be able to have this kind of dialogue with cats like you. You know, you guys that are actually out there. I mean, just rattle off a dozen songs that the audience might know that you did, Dallas.
Oh man, Creep from TLC, Motown Philly, Boyz II Men. Ain't Too Proud to Beg, TLC. What About Your Friend? Gwen Stefani, Cool.
Oh, I love that song.
Pink, Don't Let Me Get Me, Just Like a Pill.
Yeah.
Don't forget the Rihanna, Kanye.
Oh yeah, 4 or 5 seconds from Wowin'. Rihanna and Kanye, man. It's crazy because I was looking at my discography one day, and you know, I was like going through something, and it's been so long for me. When you work on songs every single day, you work on album projects like we did. There's so many songs on there. Most of them I forgot I did. To tell you the truth,
I can imagine.
Dallas, your catalog is crazy, man. I have a question. was it your idea or was it someone else's idea? How did you switch your name from, to Dallas Austin, from Austin Dallas?
Well, no, it was just, it's just it was just one of those things I just did. My mom's, obviously my dad's last name is Austin. And I was named after this spiritual doctor named Dr. Dallas Moore.
So it sounded better, or it worked better?
Yeah,
it definitely worked better.
It just worked better.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then everybody from when I was little just started calling me. It's funny because when I was little, everybody would call me DALiCO.
Okay.
And when me and Cory started, we've been working together, producing for a while, like, doing Carly Rae Jepsen and Chris Brown and other stuff.
Right.
will.i.am.
Right.
But but when we decided to work on this record, because when you put the combination of us together, you get this like this R&B, dance eclectic kind of vibe that we're doing, like future R&B. And we started thinking names, and we said, well, we got with DALiCO, and I was like, that's kind of funny because that's what they used to call me when I was little anyway. So
that's great.
Over here.
Yeah, that's cool, man. How did LA and Face affect your career? How did they,
LA and Face was a big part of my career because when they came to Atlanta and they moved to Face here, I had already did Another Bad Creation and Boyz II Men. And so I started doing work for LaFace, doing Damien Dame. This was even before TLC. I was signed to LaFace as an artist myself.
Right. I remember
and then TLC came about, and because I was doing all the other records, they said, well, dude, what do you think about this group? Can you help us with this group? And so I said, yeah, I know what to do with them. We're going to make them the female BBD, ABC, how it goes. And so when I started working with them, that was the first thing that really cracked for LaFace Records. Was TLC.
You was so hot, man. You was on fire. I mean, I was listening to everything you did, bro. I mean,
what's crazy is I was so obsessed back then with the Bomb Squad, like with Hank Shockley, and the Bomb Squad, and Pete Rock and all them in New York. Because in Atlanta, we didn't have a sound for them to really accept or not. It was like country-based music is what they looked at it as. So for me, and I think for JD too, we got a lot of our inspiration out of New York. And I would take, 20 samples and put them in one song because that's what Hank Shockley would do. But then I write a regular song on top of it, and ignore the samples. So then you got Ain't Too Proud to Beg. And then you got What About Your Friends? But the radio stations would be like, man, there's way too much noise going on these records, And the problem was this is what I want to ask you about, because I would have, at the point where I did, like, let's say Ain't Too Proud to Beg and those kind of songs, and I was putting 20 samples in each record, but one sample might be Kool and the Gang, the other sample might be Earth 25, the other sample might be Sugarhillgang. The problem is they didn't know how to clear samples at that time. When they figured it out, right? I had to go back and look. If you look at what these song sheets look like at this point, you would not believe it, because everybody in Kool and the Gang had to get paid. So it was like 0.1% to this person, 0.1% to that person. Well, that's just one band. Imagine the other 20 bands that got 15 people.
Right. Yeah.
So that was like, and then if you notice after that, when I got the Creep, I was like, okay, we're just gonna use Slick Rick.
just to keep it simple.
It was expensive being like the Bomb Squad.
Yeah.
Is you an Appleton guy too, or somewhere else?
Well, it's funny because I started out as an MPC guy, and I went through all formats, and I ended up in Logic because I had a programmer working with me. And Cory has always been super Ableton since I met him, right? And the way his stuff would sound, I would always say Cory has like 10,000 Japanese people in his head, because the way he would be working in the studio, and he would just look at the screen and it would just turn into magic. And I'm like, this kid is insane. And he was working Ableton, and Ableton to me just looked like, I would never be able to understand this. It's just too much. It's like his head. It's like inside his head. That's what the screen looks like. So over the last few years, Cory used to always tell me, man, you got to get you to Ableton. So one day I was at my studio, and the guy came in and he had the Ableton push. And I said, what is that? That's like an MPC. And he goes, because for me, I still like to hit tabs, man. I like to play. I haven't really got into the other modern screens yet like that. So, but he came in with the push. And I started working with it. And I said, oh man, this is my entry point to Ableton. So I got so obsessed with that. Then I said, call Cory. Guess what? Now we can work in Ableton because I'm working Ableton because
I was so happy.
I worked the point thing. He was like, "Thank God, finally got you at the caveman stages."
That sound like them talking to me about getting on this and doing this with the Zoom thing.
I was trying to explain the importance of it because as a unit, we have a live unit as well where G plays the drums, Mike plays the bass, Henry plays keys, I play keys, percussion, and do vocals. And my older brother, God rest his soul, he was our MD.
Okay.
But you know, but trying to explain it around Ableton, I'm trying to tell him what we could do.
Hey, look,
I'm gonna get him there. I'm gonna get him there.
Listen, guys.
It's a little slow, but I'm pulling.
I'm old school. I learned how to play drums with a metronome. You understand what I'm saying? That's how I learned how to keep time. You follow me? My father had me in the living room with the metronome, tick, 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 playing. That's how I started playing. So I'll go from that. Everything I did coming up, because we played. Everybody in our time, we were in a band. So everything you did in those days, it was all human. You had to listen. You had to be in time. You know, you had to mentally be. Even when I started DJing, there was no technical aspect to DJing. DJing was a simple thing where you had to listen for the beat. Yeah. You had to be in. You had to, and the way you blended, you had to blend it through actually, you know, slowing up and speeding down the turntables. But it was all done by your hearing and by you know, tapping your foot. You know, I cut by listening to what was going on with the other records. There was nothing from there. So coming into this era, and then, you know, I took this long break away from music. So then I come back into music, and it's like, you know, Pro Tunes and Logic Views and all this other stuff going on. Then we go into this music thing, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm remembering how it was when I played in my parents' basement. You know, yeah, go ahead, kick it off, do this. And then we go to another point, and now this is where they kind of threw me off. I'm standing because I like to watch the Vans too. So I'm sitting there watching, and Diamond's in my ear talking about, see that over there? This is how they get this going on. And I'm scared out my mind because it's like, I'm like, damn, am I going to have to, you know, put a headphone on and try to get this thing and the click track and all this stuff. Oh,
it's crazy. Because the thing about Ableton too, the Ableton is that, like, because Cory, he like you said, Cory was DJing a lot, and he was using Ableton. He would show up with this square box. Everybody else had turntables and CDs. Cory would show up with this box, and he would kick their ass. He would get up there and DJ, and he would kill everybody whoever was DJing, and then he want to go on after that. Because in Ableton, he had so many more options of records in there, and he had so many more options of things he was doing with the records that you could do.
I was like, I used to call it live remixing. I would be like remixing a song live. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Actually, the controller that I used to use, it's the same one Skrillex used to use when he first started DJing, and him and I would go out and we had the same setup, and we were doing the weirdest shit. And like nowadays, like you see like a lot of kids doing similar things, but in that time, like no one had figured out how to really like pull up the hood on Ableton like that, and we were doing shit. People are looking at us like, "What the fuck? How are these guys doing this shit?"
It's so funny.
Hey, G, I got a question for you.
Oh, what's up?
Yes.
I got a question for you.
Okay. We're gonna have. I remember when you can ask a lot of questions, but I'm gonna let you go ahead with this one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to ask you this one. I was at this. You know, I know how to feel down records out for a long time, but like, when Apache was out for you, right?
Yes.
I know I was when it was out for us, like as fans. Is it bigger now than it was then?
Let me tell you something now. Again, see, I got to give you the short story about me and this whole thing, okay? So, of course, 79 to 85, I cut and recorded and wrote with Mike and them, everything, right? Apache, 8th Wonder, Hot Summer Day, all of that catalog. We did all of that between 75 and 85. 85, I walked away from this whole thing, okay? I stayed away from music. I didn't cut a record, do a concert, nothing. 2005, I came back into the fold and took on this whole situation. Now, when we cut Apache in 82, okay, we had the hardest time in the world getting this record. We had to promote it. I had to do legwork for it, promotional tour, all that, okay? In the set, we did Apache maybe in the beginning of the show. You know what I mean? We were doing like Eighth Wonder and Rapper's Delight at the end of the show. I mean, at one time we was even closing with Eighth Wonder because it was so big, you know, when it came out. So again, I do this whole thing. I disappear. Between the 90s, I ended up having children. So my daughter was now 21 and my son is 26. I come to the house in LA one time. We had a spot out in LA, and she's like, "Daddy, you don't understand. You're like crazy. My friends are like," I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So they play this episode of The Fresh Prince for me. So I'm sitting in the living room and I'm listening. I'm like, "Damn, okay, yeah, that's okay, cool. That's nice." So I still not performing. Now I get back and I'm start performing with these guys, me and Mike. We get through the songs that we hit Apache, and I'm not like, boom, the place goes nuts. So I'm like, wait a minute. Now here we are. Now we're 10, 15 years into this. And Dallas, when I tell you, man, Apache is a bigger record now than it was 35 years ago.
Yeah,
which is the most incredible. I mean, it is unreal how big this song is, man. My wife, just right now, my wife was she's in the living room doing her thing, and she shows me somebody that's a Washington fan that says, I think this thing said, no matter what the election comes out, the Dallas Cowboys will still suck. This is the thing, but they use the the Dallas Cowboys will still suck. That was the way that they used. She just showed me that, and so now so that gives you an idea.
But you know what's crazy, right? When I was doing drumline,
yes,
because the drumline is about me when I was in marching band, and so I came up. The whole story of Nick Cannon is my story. You know, he plays me. I play snare drum. I couldn't read music. Blah blah blah.
Right.
And my job was, as a producer of this movie, to make sure it stayed true to the marching bands, right? It wasn't about me, it's about the marching band at the end of the day, you know? And so we were going through the music, and they were going, well, we got to play these songs, we got to play, and the director had no idea what HBCUs was about, right? So he come in and said, we got to play jazz, we got to play this. I said, my man, this is where I got to take over, this is what I do right here. And let me show you this. And I took him to another game, and I said, watch these kids play Apache. On Southwest DeKalb was a school in Atlanta, which is a marching band we used in drumline. Anyway, that was a high school marching band. And when them kids start doing the jump on it, and they're doing the pony going around like that, I said, now you understand what I'm talking about? This is a part of culture. It's not just a song. This is a part of culture that will always be.
It is, Dallas, because we could be walking through the airport, right, on tour or going to a gig or something, and we can see some young fans, they be checking us out, and the whole time they're trying to figure out, who are these guys? I know they got to be somebody, but they just can't figure out who we are. So then one of them finally get the nerve, and they'll come up to us and they'll say, who are you guys? You look like somebody. and then we'll say, we're the Sugar Hill Gang. And they'll be like, I don't know. And then, we do the song Rapper's Delight. No. Jump on it. Oh, yeah, we know that. Oh, yeah.
And what's crazy in the 80s and 90s, Rapper's Delight was like, it was like I think each one of these songs had their own era, because even after they were out, everybody had to rap Rapper's Delight, period. Who doesn't know the Rapper's Delight, right? Hip hop and hip-hop, everybody will know that, right? But now, Apache just took on a whole nother life. Bro.
And here's the thing, and here's the crazy thing. This is how big this record has become. Of course, the name of the record is Apache. That was the name we gave the record in 81, 82 when we cut it. When it transferred, this is something that hardly ever happens. The name of the record has transferred. Like I could say to somebody, well, yeah, I cut the record Apache. And they'll be like, Apache? The record Jump On It. Jump On It. Oh my God. It's the same record.
That's the name of it.
The same vocal I did in the studio in 81 is the same vocal that's on that record. It's nothing that we did. We have done nothing different to that record. So yeah, that's the thing behind Apache.
I feel like I got way more questions to ask you.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. So,
later portion of the show, Dallas.
Right. Yeah, we get to that portion. So tell us. So Cory and Dallas, either one, tell us about. And I want to make sure I say DALiCO.
Okay, so Actually, we originally it was just DALiCO because it's Dallas plus Cory, right? DALiCO.
Right. That's what I thought.
And
That's what I thought.
we had some issues with getting that name cleared, so we added the I in, and the I is kind of silent if you want it to be.
Still DALiCO.
It's still DALiCO.
DALiCO.
Yeah, DALiCO. You just say the I real fast, you know.
Gotcha.
Changing my name to India. I'm coming in.
Right. So
in all your creation, I noticed they go all the way. I mean, you do R&B, you go around the other side. Is it the ingredients according to who's coming in, or is it just stuff that's already there and you go, oh yeah, you fit this?
Oh, it's the ingredients, man. Like I've always been tailor-made. And that's one of my problems is that nothing sounded like the last one. So I was like, when they see me a creep, I'll be like, oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. It's funny, I went to work with, LA called me to work with Blue Cantrell. And he said, well, give me a song that's like a soul song, because this is the soul music she's doing. So she comes to the studio, and I just cannot feel what he's talking about. So next day she show up, I got to do something. So I hit him up style real fast. After I was watching this Merry Melodies cartoon, like he was scheming, I was beaming, and the beam was just beaming. So I'm like, I like the song, it was cool, but I go to see LA the next day, and I play in the TLC fan mail record, the album, and I just ease out the house, like, okay, I'm good, man. I love the album. All right, cool. Because like, did you do a song on Blue Cantrell? I'm like, yeah, man, but it ain't really what you asked for, so I don't even play it for you. So he said, well, let me just hear it. So I played it. He got halfway through the song. He's like, are you crazy? This is the first single. This is the record, right? One of my problems has always been that I worked with the artist, and whatever I came up with, that was just it. I didn't know how to do anything else, and I didn't have a sound per se, because I thought that every artist, whatever they came in is what they should feel like, what they should sound like. And so it would make me have to start over again and again. When I did Don't Take It Personal for Monica, he was basically going, well, give me like a song like Creep. I'm like, she's 14 singing just one of them days on the backseat of the Jeep, man. It ain't that serious.
Right.
So you always tried to be different, or it just came out that way. I mean, you just
I saw it came out from me really. I came up watching I would go to every concert when I was little. So I seen the Mothership Land. I seen Earth, Wind and Fire spinning on the stages. I got a chance to see concerts that was like that. And and then I was into Rick James and Prince, and I was into Duran Duran and Depeche Mode, and I came up, I think, in the first classrooms where you had white kids sitting next to you with black kids, and you had girls, and nobody knew any racial difference at that time. We were young, and even if you were 8, 9, 10 years old during that time, doing like 70, going to 80, then it was kind of the breaking where everything was starting to mesh, like Nile Rodgers was doing stuff over in London. So you were hearing guitar sounds coming across. And so I came up listening to all that and wanting to be a part of everything. You know what I'm saying? I want to be a part of Human League. I want to be a part of.
Right.
So it was really just that difference we came up in. And by the time I got to Atlanta, kids were skateboarding, and rap music was even more prominent. So I started adding those elements and stuff to it. Right. But it was just always just wanted to be, I always looked at songs as they rode in different vehicles, so whatever you change, as long as you got as long as you cram that story into 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Because
Cory, I got a question for Cory. Cory.
Yeah.
Do you feel like EDM is very similar to the development or the exposure of rap music? Do you feel it has any parallel? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, for me, when I first started making music, I also, like Dallas, I was really influenced by a lot of different things. Like for me, actually, when I first heard Premier and Gangstar shit, that was like, I want to make shit like that, because he was sampling these old jazz records, and I was super into jazz. And so I started making that, but I grew up in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert in Death Valley, and I had very little exposure to the scenes, and I just had all these different kind of influences. And I was making really weird electronic music, I guess, but it had a lot of hip hop influence. When I met Dallas, I played it for Dallas, and I didn't realize this, but Dallas is like, he's like, you're making R&B hip hop, and I was like, no, I'm not. I don't think I am. But he was talking about the groove and the soul that was in my music. He could feel that in there, and but in my mind, I was like, I'm making electronic music, but there was definitely like some parallels there. But when Dallas and I met each other, we came from such different backgrounds and different worlds. I think that's kind of been the essence of us being collaborators for the past decade, in that we make something really interesting, because I bring this whole world that Dallas didn't really know much about. And then Dallas brings this whole world that I didn't really know much about. And when we met, I moved to Atlanta. I moved in with Dallas, and I really like started breathing the environment and feeling all these sounds, and these people are making these sounds there. And these people are looking at me like, Dallas, who is this weird kid that you're bringing around? I did not fit in really. Like the way I looked really strange to these people. You know, people are like, who the fuck is this? And then he'd be like, well, he's like, go into the studio and go listen to what he's making. And they would go in and be like, what the fuck is this? You know? And I think it just this melding and this crashing of these two worlds has created, and that's the essence of what the music we've done together over the years for other people and has always been. And it just kind of evolved naturally just in the last like year and a half to us saying, you know what, let's do an artist project that's centered around the essence of Dallas Austin and coryenemy in an artist project, like bringing Dallas's R&B and hip hop kind of background meshed with my electronic kind of house music, that sort of deep house stuff, like meshed together. Like, let's see where that goes and see what that can be.
That's the kind of the reason why I asked you, because I really do feel like there's so many connections to EDM and hip hop. I mean, in rap music, man. I mean, you know, that groundbreaking situation, like the dubstep. My youngest son, he plays 5 instruments and he's very, very, very into music. My youngest son actually turned me on to dubstep music when it first kind of hit. He's Dad, you know, you gotta listen to this, man. You know, and I was like, yeah, what is this? You know what I mean? It's like, and then it would go, you know, it had that, and I'd be like, okay, what am I listening to, man? You know, no, Dad, just wait, and then
wait for the drop.
Wait for the drop. I'm like, oh my God, what?
You know what's crazy? Is Cory and I played Friendship, which is a where you go to the cruise ships and then you play on the ship with different DJs, and so it's like almost like a rave on the ship, right? Yeah. And as we're walking in to the ship's corridor, they're playing "I Need a Freak," right? And I'm like, oh man, what's going on? I look up, an Egyptian Lover is DJ, right?
Oh my God!
And I'm like, no way did I just walk in here and Egyptian Lover is spinning a set of his music, which is insane. That all of these EDM kids were sitting there just going crazy over all the Egyptian Lover.
Yeah. So the reason that is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say to your point, Cory, it definitely works because, you know, we had the pleasure of working with Bob Sinclair, and we got a #1 record out of that called the La La Song. Yeah, man. So we definitely feel where you're coming from with it.
Yeah, that cruise ship that Dallas is talking about. So the guy that started that cruise ship, his name is Gary Richards, and his DJ name is Destructo. So Destructo, this guy, he started back in the 90s. He started EDC, which if you guys must have heard of EDC now, it's the largest like EDM festival in the world now. I think is huge. He started it in the 90s as an underground kind of thing. And this guy's a really good friend of mine, and I've made a lot of records with him. He decided back in like 2013, he wanted to start doing a genre called G House, and it's house music with rappers on it. And he's done, so he's like, and I've helped him with a lot of his stuff. We worked together on it, and we actually have a DALiCO collaboration coming out with him soon, but he's done stuff with like Problem and YG and Too Short and Yo Gotti and Warren G and Busta Rhymes and Corrupt. Like, And it's just straight up like house music, but with like a real like simple kind of bass line on it. And then like he's bringing in these kind of old school hip hop dudes on there doing, and he kind of coined this idea, this G house thing. So he's a good friend of mine. He started this cruise ship festival. That's why he booked Egyptian Lover, because he grew up on that shit. His dad actually was a big a radio DJ back in the 70s, and he knew like a lot of these dudes from back in that era. So Gary Richards, even though he's like a house DJ and he started the Hard Festival and all these big EDM festivals around the world, he always wanted to try and mesh those worlds together. He actually booked Rick James at one of his EDM festivals. Yeah. So you have all these EDM raver kids, like they're all on, yeah, you got these kids on Molly, and they're like all dressed in neon, and they walk into the tent. You got Rick James, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
That's just like we were in Hong Kong, and we did a show with a festival with the Chemical Brothers, and man, we killed it, right? The Chemical Brothers came out there. The crowd went to another level, man. I mean, they were like going nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
This is go ahead.
Go ahead, G.
No. This is just like I said. It's very exciting. I had a question for Dallas also. Dallas, in all of the collaborations that you've done, like all of the different situations that you've been a part of, is there any lessons that you might have learned, or something that somebody told you? I know one of the things, like when I was reading about you, and I wrote it down because it was so fire. Somebody told you a song is a recording is an event that just happened. That's why it's called a record. Somebody told. Do you have? I mean, that was so like significant when I heard that. It was so significant. I wrote it down. You know what I mean? What? And I mean, you work with, God knows everybody, man. Is there anything that you can say that really kind of like, it's stuck with you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough, man, to like I said, a lot of those acts were coming to my mom's restaurant, right, when I was little. So George Clinton, for instance, he's like my I call him Uncle George. But from the time of him being in that restaurant to the time of him working in my studio, me working on stuff with him, and me getting, I've been fortunate enough to get wisdom from a lot of elders that I came up on. I'm always pinching myself because I was around them. Going, man, I've seen him when I was in my mom's restaurant. I see him in concert. Now he's working in my studio all the time. Now I'm getting advice from him. Now and same thing with Quincy. Quincy told me, man, he always say, dude, you see it, you can be it. Because I was like, I went into Quincy's house one time and I just got mad depressed because I was like, man, he got 60 Oscars and 900 million records sold, and I'm like, shit. And I'm like, I'm sitting there with him and I'm going, how is this even possible? You got so many awards, you can't even hang them anywhere. How do you get peace prizes? How do you get things for help, like brain surgeries? Like, what are you? He said, man, be quiet. I started at 30 years old. You started way before me, so you way ahead of the curve. He said, I produced my first record. It's my party, and I cry if I want to at 30 years old. I was like, wow, and you did all that since then. He said, man, you gotta, care about what you care about. And then whatever you care about will lead you to where you're supposed to be at,
That's very true. That's very, very true, man. And that's kind of where, we have found, and I'm speaking about Mike and I, one of the reasons why we're even back, we even did what we needed to do is because of how I felt about Mike. I mean, a lot of people don't know that, the only reason why I'm even doing music with the group and all this is because Mike actually called me. Mike and I remained friends throughout the whole time that I was away, gone, and he just called me up one day, and I thought he was just making a regular call, telling me that he was done with the existing situation that I didn't want to be a part of, and he was interested in doing a new project. And so, just based on my love for him was the reason why I agreed to, do what we're doing, which is kind of crazy. So I feel you, because I cared about him was the reason why I even got into it. And then of course it took, on whatever it is that's going on. What you got going on over there, man? This is real TV. You need a second? You need a moment?
Auntie here trying to come in and give me some crackers, and I'm telling them.
I'm having a serious moment here, and I'm like, what the hell's going on over there?
I'm trying to get.
That's okay.
Like, hey, I need something to eat while you're online. I'm from the South, man. It's Auntie Lisa.
I get it. No, I get it. My wife's family's from North Carolina. I get it, dog. I totally understand. Believe me. But yes, so I love that you go to what you care about, because that's been the basis of our whole situation, man. The fight. Go ahead.
Other thing is, I have people that mentored me coming up. They helped me out a lot of these kind of situations, like Clarence Avon, Gerald Busby. These OGs, man, it's funny because all they told me to do was, they said, look, you can't afford to pay me. You ain't got no money. So what you do is make sure you help everybody else out. You keep everybody out of trouble. You try to make sure in the black music or whatever y'all doing, nobody's messing over each other. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's doing that. You just gotta help this thing stay straight. And and I took that to heart. And so in Atlanta, even they call me Dad, because everybody's gonna come by and say, big boy, Dad, how I change my stuff up? I want to get in the movies. I want to do this. All right, let me put you in the ATL. But you also got to get all these dudes away from around you. So it's always advice that comes with your progress. And I do that for everybody. I look at contracts. I look at agreements. I try to make the best out of everybody's situation and make sure that everybody understands and it's not turning into anything crazy. Busta was talking about it not long ago, where I gave him flip mode as a label. Said, man, you need to go ahead and start doing something else. But I got handed down that way, and you're supposed to do the same as you're taught. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
I love that, man.
Definitely.
Contracts. Things like that, because a lot of the kids or a lot of the people who are in the business really don't understand how it really works, or how to get paid, or how the things actually happen. Publishing, writing. The whole thing, having someone to get you through that, or make you understand it, or make you understand that this is a business. If you don't understand that, you will get. Even for the people who came in for the love of the business, I know you're one of the people who have gotten tangled in those bootstraps and gotten tripped. So for you to hear you say that you're trying to teach them how to go along and do this thing, and teach them how not to get hurt and how not to hurt other people. That's a blessing in itself, brother, because some people, after they get tripped, they like to trip others.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure y'all been through the gamut with this too, because the industry's changed, man. You know how I was. Y'all was in it before I was, so y'all real things on there. I know the whole story, the Sylvias and the whole story.
Right.
But at the same rate, the industry changed, and when the industry has changed, it's like, you know what? A lot of times before, I felt like people who wasn't the actual talent was going out and getting the talent. They still do that. You do street money or whatever you want to call it. But when you have the talent and you're an artist and I write my own songs, produce my own stuff, I'm ready to take anything from anybody. So what I try to do is make sure that the industry's changed. It ain't just about like, it's enough cheese for everybody. It's enough cake for everybody to get it. Nobody has to hog everything and pick people up and let them not know what they're doing. I found out it's better that if they know what they're doing, we work as a team and we can get what we're trying to get to. So I just try to relay that to the kids now, because it's a different industry than it was.
I just want to testify for a second as somebody that actually, I'm one of the people that calls Dallas Dad, because they call him Daddy D. Dallas and I are like brothers now, but when I met him, he really was like a huge mentor for me and a guiding star for me in my entry into the music industry. And around the time that I had, prior to that, kind of been around some bloodsuckers and some people doing things like without integrity, and then here I meet this and I had this idea in my head back then that you couldn't make it unless you were a bloodsucker, and that there was no integrity in the industry, and that the only way to get ahead, these people were getting ahead by fucking everyone over. And then I meet Dallas, and he he has so much integrity, and he really does just want to help people. And I learned a lot from him about that as I've gone on and kind of like left the nest and started my own company and started signing people to my company and signing producers and writers. Like I always remembered how well Dallas has always treated me and how fair he's always been, and how it is possible to get ahead in this game and still maintain that integrity.
Yes.
It was very inspiring to me.
I was very proud when I saw Cory do that. I was like, man, I see you. Give me a hug. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I learned
you know, and
you,
then
Dad.
and and then here we go from my eyes, because you know, when, like you said, when I first came through the door, this was still the old doo-wop type mentality.
Motown,
you know, yeah, I didn't want to use that name. Thank you, Henry. But anyway, the doo-wop mentality.
You can hear the podcast, baby.
Right, okay. Thank you. Anyway, you know, so I came in through that door, you know what I mean? And it's so exciting to be able to talk to a different generation, because I have literally personally have gone through that. You get what you only given the information that we need you to have, you know, to the exposure to finally, like, you know, when you start being able to get your own information, to, you know, then get to the point where we're going to try to keep this locked in so you can't get this, to the point now where it became, like you just said, which is what I always said, it's enough money for everybody, man. So there's no need to do it wrong. If you can do it wrong and make that kind of money, how much money can you make doing it right? Because now I'm gonna feel better about what I'm doing. You know what I mean? 100%. And here we are now, and you know, and I can say that at this point in my life and in my career, yes, the people that, you know, needed to do the right things with my stuff have finally done that. So we're on that other side. So this is cool. This is very cool.
That's amazing, because y'all, I mean, y'all's because and that's something we can talk about too. But statute of limitations and stuff comes up at some point, which a lot of people don't know.
Well, that's what happened. That's part of what happened. Ours came up. It's 35 years, so ours already came up. So that's kind of what started it. Once we got to that point, you know what I mean? My people and my powers that be, they were like, okay, here we go. You know what I mean? We had, you know, yada yada, and I got to give credit to the people that I got down with. You know, the hands of the people that was on my stuff went through a change of the guard. You know what I mean? And it got to the point where one significant individual, and I'll call his name Leland Robinson, was smart enough to say that, you know what, this is a legacy that needs to be protected. You know, one of my biggest problems why I left is because I didn't feel justifiably taken care of for the accolades that people were giving me. You follow what I'm saying? It's like, you know,
yes,
you know, it's like, okay, okay, we're this group and we did all this stuff, but I need to be able to receive what it is that I'm so significant in having my life be a part of. You know what I mean? And for many years, I was totally against even being a part of it, because that was my biggest axe that I was carrying. You follow me? But then now we're at the point where it's not that way anymore. You follow me? It has become a joy, man, to be this person now. You know,
and you never thought
it's.
Absolutely. And you never think it at those points when you're going through all that. And
no.
Listen. And ain't nobody saying nothing to you, and you don't know nothing about that. You got a lot of stress. But somebody just told you one day, guess what? That shit gonna come back to you. You and my kids have a chance to get some of this, you know, or grandkids even. Like, I didn't do this for nothing.
and I'm gonna tell you, man, for years that was my biggest thing. I was just bitter. You know what I mean? I was in a dark place. You know, I had so much animosity towards just the world in general, because it was like, you know, why do you have to do wrong to think that you can get right? And that's not how it works. And then I actually went into business for myself, and that was my thing. I always never wanted to do to people what was done to me. So the fact that a person could come work with me, I used to tell people, you can do one or two things. You can either work with me or you can work for me. If you're working with me, I'm gonna give you this opportunity. If you work for me, then take what you got to get, and whatever it is that you get, I'm gonna make sure you get that, and then you can go on your way. So, you know, that became, I think that's part of the reason why, you know, we work so well with Hand and Diamond. You know, that was the way that I came into the situation. I was like, yo, we doing this together. You know what I mean? This is a team thing from the gate. You know what I mean? And we've said this. I'm like, shit, we gonna win together or we gonna lose together. But either way, we gonna do it together. You know what I mean? And right. and here we are, man. And here we are. Yeah. So, okay, now I'm gonna turn it over to questions and answers. So you have an opportunity to ask any questions or as many questions as you like to ask. Go ahead, whoever.
Oh yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. Okay, so in the studio, right?
Yes.
Say Eighth Wonder or Apache or any of the records, right? What did the session look like? Was it horn players over there? Was it drummers over here? Was it conga players right here? Was it 8 people in the room? Was it 10 people in the room? Because it definitely wasn't on the damn laptop.
No, and that's a great question. So the way that we cut records in those days, right, was you had the drummer and he was in a cage, and then the bass player, and then you had the guitar player. And so everybody laid down everything from scratch. Okay, so the drummer played the beat. You know, they knew what they was gonna play. You know, it's the whole 9 yards. So everybody did that, and you had those tracks. Okay, then with the horns, they would bring a horn section in. It was a horn section called chops. And that was a horn. They was like one of the hottest horn sections in the New York metropolitan area. So they would come in and chop. So they would get the charts and they'd sit up there, and then they would lay it all down. You know, physically lay it all down. And so you had the basic song like Eighth Wonder. You had the basic song. Of course, you know Eighth Wonder is a break. You know that's where the that came from a break. That's a song called Daisy Lady by and the guy that wrote that was Ron Dupree, the bass player for the Commodores. He had an album. Yes. So that's when again being a DJ. We had to. That's how I knew it was a Ron Dupree.
So being a DJ, you would take the songs and play them over the way we just take them and sample them.
Right. So that's what I was doing. I was So what happened? The initial formula in the beginning, like you said, is when we were looking for a song. That's the reason why when we went from Rapper's Delight, the first song we cut was a song called Sugarhill Groove. That was a groove. That was a break beat called Catch a Groove. That was a break beat. So that's what they did. So they just kind of went from there. That's why Flash and them used Genius of Love, and they used Freedom and all of those. That was, but what they would do is they would have like this guy named Jigs Chase was an amazing producer, and you probably see him on some of the material. They had that knowledge. What Jigs would do is listen to the music and he'd break it all down. You know, and he'd have the sheet music for the musicians. Wow. So they would come in and they would play it off the sheet music, and then they would add all the stuff around it. So they actually they built it like a house from the ground
sample
up.
Would
and then
after, the sample of break would stay in, and the music would be added on top of it.
No samples at all.
No sample.
Okay, so then the sample would then be removed.
Yeah. There was nothing. It was empty. They listened to it. They wrote it all out, and
That's
then they
crazy.
gave it to the musician. So that
so cool.
That was played on a keyboard. That whole and then the horn section came in, and they put they played that on top of that, and then once all of that was done, and it was structured with the verses. So that's why you hear that.
How many days?
Wow.
How many days would a session take? Like how many days did how many days did Rappers Delight session take?
No. So Rappers Delight section is a different situation. So the whole thing about Rappers Delight was the music was recorded. They had the idea. Right. The music was recorded. So, and bless her heart, and I gotta tell everybody, Sylvia's genius was the idea to put this thing together. So that that was a song called Here Comes That Sound. It was a disco group back, and it had a record out called Here Comes That Sound, Here Comes That Sound, again and again. So she came up with the idea of doing that to put it on top of the beat. Now, you know, Good Times, it has a lot of heat, you know, like she just wanted the bass line. She had the band, boom, 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 boom. She had them play all of that and leave it open like it was being cut.
That was my question, yeah.
Wow.
Right. So she had it, she left it open like that. Because that's what the reason why you had 2 records is so you could extend a piece of a song that might have been this big. So a lot of times those breaks a lot of times, like Ain't No Half Stepping, that's a short break. Ain't no half stepping. Well, you gotta get the other record up to that point so you can keep that going so that the rapper could rap on top of it. So that's what happened with Rappers Delight. They tailor-made it for rapping. So that now the key of the whole situation with Rappers Delight was we had already decided, once she got us decided to take the 3 of us, she had already decided that because of what Mike was saying, hip hop, what you hear is not a test. We said, okay, that's a good record. That's a good way to go first. Mike, you should go first. And then Hank with the party rocker, OVA. So they was like, yada, yada. And then I had to kind of like, so they're like, okay, well, you go last and we're going to put Hank second so he could kind of pump it up. And that's what happened. Now we get into the studio. It's no vocal booths. It's none of that. We in the actual studio. So it's the control room and us in the studio. 3 mics set up. Mike, me, Hank, Mike, and they go. And so the idea was, and then what you did as a rapper is you passed the mic to the next person by saying, next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, Hank, sing that song. That's the cue for the next person to start. So that's why you get to the Master G, my mellow, it's on you. So what you gonna do? Well, when it got to my part, I was like, I'm not stopping. I'm gonna just keep on rapping. That's why my the first rap is so long. Cause I'm like, I'm getting ready to get off. I'm getting off. So now, so I finally decide to stop rapping, like after a while, right, and give it back to Mike. Okay. So what happens now is we don't know anything about vocal recording. We are completely new to this whole thing. I knew about being in the studio because my dad was a recording engineer. So I had been in the studio, I had been around the studio, but I had never recorded anything. So as far as we was concerned, they said, go. Mike went, he passed it to Hank. Hank passed it to me. I passed it back to Mike. Mike passed it to Hank. Hank passed it to me. I passed it back to Mike. Mike passed it to Hank. They passed it back to me. The reason why the record is so long is because that's how much music they recorded. So literally the music ran out, and that's why we stopped. We didn't know to stop, and they didn't tell us to stop. They just was like they was all in the booth, and there was people in the booth, and they in there partying and they dancing, and we just rocking. And as far as I was concerned, it was like doing a party, but it was being recorded. So Rappers Delight is the only session that we did through all of those songs that was one take. It was basically one take. We stopped for 1 minute, and the only reason why we stopped is because bless his heart, God rest his soul, we didn't know it at the time. But Hank wasn't a real rapper, and he didn't know about passing the mic. He didn't know how to pass the mic. And he didn't know that next to the mic is my man Hank. It's on you. So what you gonna do? Mike said it, and everything went dead. Because he didn't know that was the cue. See, Mike and I were already rapping in our little groups in that northern New Jersey area. Mike had 500 people in his group. And it was only me and one other guy.
How many people?
555. He had like 565 people in his group, and it was me and another guy. So we were already writing and recording, so we knew, and we used to beat them all the time. And we knew the deal. You see, so that was the only time we stopped. So that was the situation with Rappers Delight. It was 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Do you feel like y'all was like the way that rappers are now? I mean, like I know, like when I remember, I look at like Flash and them, they would have on the leather pants and the like,
yes,
that was considered like as fly and flashy as things are now. Did y'all feel like that at the height of all that? Did y'all feel the same way you think the rappers feel now at the height of all that?
Without question. I mean, you know, the whole. Let me tell you something, and I tell this to people all the time. Whatever Drake is received in popularity, whatever Eminem is received, whatever Travis Scott being mobbed, girls scream. I'm the first rap star in the world, homeboy. The first rap star in the world. Okay, I'm the first one that they screamed for. I'm the first one that got his clothes tore off. I'm the first one that had to have a decoy run out of the venue so that I could get in. I'm the first one they tried to turn over the limo because I was in it. I mean, you know, I'm that guy, man. You know what I mean? So yeah, I whatever they doing now, I did it 41 years ago. So I've been there and done
because I felt that way coming up as a kid. As I would look to see, I was like, man, you look at the album covers and stuff, and you look at videos because that's all we had. And
right.
And a concert, if you get into them, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the concerts get sold out. So
Right.
I would look at it as a kid and be like, these dudes were like super, super large. Like, and
yeah,
that's how it felt.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I was gonna say I have a question for you, Dallas, for you and Cory. Basically, do y'all have any one of you have any kind of superstitions or anything that you follow while you're in the recording studio recording or anything like that? Because as you know that Rapper's Delight was done on an old board, and when it was time to get rid of it, it was a big debate in the studio because they didn't want to get rid of the board because the board had so many hits done on it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I had the same thing happen because I had my at Dark. That's what we were at Dark Studios. I sold it to Future now. But at that studio, every single thing I recorded was on my SSL in the studio. So I recorded Madonna, I recorded like all the TLCs, Grace Jones, like everybody on this console, right? And on the master tapes. So after a while, and all these keyboards I got behind me is like a piece of like 3 storage rooms of keyboards that I got because the room was full of keyboards, right? And after a while, they would come up and be like, you know, you ain't even using this SSL no more. It's just sitting there with your computer on top of it. You gotta take it out of here. And I'll be like, Cory was doing that. So he was there doing the time. I'm like, no, man, don't take my knobs. I want to touch the knobs. They're like, you're not touching the actual knobs. That's not happening no more.
It's like a museum piece in there. Actually, it was really, I was the one that had the laptop sitting on top of it. And I'd be like, we're never using this thing, but it's kind of cool. Like, it makes me feel like a producer. You know?
Hey, Cory, did you get a chance to use that board?
I mean, only to patch my speakers through it.
Wow.
Honestly, but I actually, when I first showed up, when I first started working in Atlanta with Dallas, we were still over at DARP, Dallas's original studio, which he built that studio with the first money he made. And there was so much history in there. And I remember I was digging around in back rooms. It was all dusty. And you see there's like tape machines. And I was like, what is this? I felt like I was like an explorer, you know? And I found this box, this little shoe box, and there was some DAT tapes in there. And I don't think anyone knew what was in, like, these DAT tapes hadn't been touched in a long ass time. And Dallas started plugging in the DAT tapes, like, what's on these? And he found some like old left eye raps that like were just lost, like no one heard, you know? And it was just amazing to me. Like it felt like a time capsule, this place. I could like smell the history in this place. So for me coming in the next generation, I felt like I kind of tapped into that energy creatively. And this was a time when I was developing myself as an artist and developing my sound creatively. And it played a big part. So when DARP went away, it was definitely like a sad moment, you know, but I could feel the difference between making music in DARP and then making music in different places, you know.
Oh yeah.
Still to this day, anywhere I work, I'm very sensitive to like the surroundings of that environment. You know, it's important.
Yeah, it is.
Very funny story though. Stevie Nicks, I was working with Stevie Nicks at one point, right? And she had this dragon delivered to me, right? And she's like, look, they're gonna drive this dragon all the way from Arizona. It's made out of metal. This picture guy makes it. I have one at home. I want to give you one. So then this guy drive all the way from Arizona to bring this dragon to DARP. So I was like, oh man, this is great. You know, she said, we're gonna name him Xavier. You can just keep him up here. So I got the dragon, big metal dragon. I set it up with all my other little toys and artifacts and stuff. And in this room, I had a bunch of stuff. I had toys, I had cars, I had 1,000 keyboards, tapestries. It just looked like a hard rock, like a house of blues in a way.
I understand.
My mom walks in the room, and out of all these things and artifacts in this room, she goes straight to this damn dragon. Take that out of here. That dragon over there? Take that out of here. Where'd you get that from? I don't care where you got it from. Take that dragon out of here. Out of 1,000 things in the room, she said, we got to get that out of here.
Straight to the dragon.
It's amazing what they vibe on, right, man? What they feel like the spirit needs to be clear, right? You know, yeah.
Hey, Dallas, have you ever got rid of any of your old keyboards that you had to go back and find again?
This is the problem right here. I got kicked out of a music store one time, right? Dude, I would go buy the keyboard. I would go play keyboards at a music store every day because I couldn't afford them. Like $1,200 is just ridiculous, right? And so, and I would ask my mom, hey, yo, mom, every Christmas I keep this Casio calculator keyboard. Give me a big one, give me a big one, give me a big one. I can't play in local bands without a keyboard, right? And my goal was to get to the Oberheim, which is I got over here. And my first goal was to get to this J. This is my first keyboard that I actually got. Well, my brother financed it for $1,200 to the finance for 5 years. And he threw the keyboard and broke it one day. And I got pissed off and went to the Greyhound bus station. So I was moved to Atlanta. And that's what got me to Atlanta is this keyboard. But I'm a guy here. But I promised myself, when this guy came in the music store, he says, I used to go in there, take the bus out to this music store. And so I could play the keyboards. And he says, the owner sees me one day, says, you, get your hands off of that. You can't afford that. Get out of my store. And I'm like, me? I'm just playing. And this manager would let me play it every time I'm coming there. He goes, oh, man, yeah, try this one. Try it out. Right. We got the new Cory Poly 6. We got the new this, right? And when that man kicked me out, I was so heartbroken that day. I was so mad. I was like, I promise to God, I'm going to get a keyboard, keep every keyboard possible none. So I made it, right? I started to make it. People started to, know I was a little bit around. Years later, I go in the same shop, and the man comes up to me and goes, hey, yo, man, Dallas Austin. Blah, 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 blah. I was young still. It's like my first TLC Boyz II Men years, whatever. And I went to the manager, and I said, do you remember me? And he goes, yeah, of course I remember you, man. You come and play the keyboards all the time. I said, you want a music store? He said, what do you mean? I said, if you leave this store, I'll open your music store. Just give me everything it costs because you used to let me play those keyboards all the time. He said, are you serious? I said, yeah. So I opened Atlanta Pro Audio for that guy.
Wow, that's what's up.
That's an awesome story, man. Awesome. That's an awesome story. That's awesome. Do we have any more questions?
Cory, you playing the instrument?
I actually grew up playing like guitar and harp, actually, like Celtic instruments. I came from a weird household where we weren't really allowed to listen to secular music too much. And my mom plays Celtic harp and like acoustic guitars. And so I had I grew up around listening like folk music and Celtic instruments kind of stuff. My dad builds harps. That was and then when I first started hearing electronic music, I started blending the two together and bringing those
I was going to ask you, did you melt the two?
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. I coined the term organica. It's like organic sounds with electronic.
That's awesome, man. Nice.
I made this album.
Dallas is biting at the bit.
Go ahead, Dallas. Go ahead.
I made this album like in my bedroom. It's the first album I ever made, and I was like 15 years ago. I was combining organic sounds with electronic music and then sampling old jazz records at the same time. And I just self-released it and then kind of forgot about it. And then I fast forward years later, like a decade later, I come to find out that this album that I thought no one knew about had actually influenced a handful of really big artists. I come to meet them later on and we're working together, and then they find out that I'm the person that did that album because I did it under a different name. And there's like, what in the hell? Like Aluna George, they hit me up and I saw they were following me on Twitter. I was like a big fan of Aluna George when they first came out. And I was like, why are they following me on Twitter? And I DM'd them and they're like, oh, that album you did 15 years ago, that was like the reason I started making music. And I was just like,
okay.
I got a question for you, G. I got a question for y'all. Like Sugarhill, I thought that when I was coming up, I thought that the Sugarhill Records and Sugarhill Gang, I thought that everybody that was under Sugarhill Records was a part of the Sugarhill Gang in a sense, like it was for us with with Bad with Death Row. So was it like that? Was it like Grandmaster Flash Sugar Hill Gang, everybody like was in the gang and messed with each other. Everybody was all like one squad like that, or was it like, or was it separate?
It was okay. Sugar Hill Records initially was all platinum records. Okay, now who recorded on all platinum records was a group called The Moment. Love on the Two-Way Street, Look at Me, I'm in Love. There was another group, another guy named Lonnie Youngblood. He was over there. There was a woman named Shirley. She had a song called Shame, 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 Shame on You.
Oh, no way. Shame on You.
Oh, yes. Linda Jones. You remember Linda Jones?
Yeah, Hypnotized.
So what they did was they turned that label into Sugar Hill?
So it was already there, the building, the whole 9 yards. It was already a record company, all platinum records. So when Sylvia and due to, you know, whatever it is they had going on, they got into a financial situation right at that time. So it's almost like, you know, and this is why I tell people sometimes too why I was so pissed off. It's like Rappers Delight saved their life, literally. You know what I mean? Like they were in, it was so bad that they would tell you, you know what, if you answered the phone, don't say all platinum records. You know what I mean? Because that's how bad that name was at that point. So in any business situation, what do? Well, you just leave the same business, you just change the name. So that's why they changed it. Because we were the first group, Sugar Hill Gang, she just ran with it and said, okay, we're going to name it Sugar Hill Records.
That's what I was trying to, okay, that's what it is.
Right. And so like Motown, you know, everybody, once we came out, once Rappers Delight hit, and, you know, we started doing all of the concerts and the radio and then Soul Train and all that other shit started happening, that's when the Mecca started happening. So everybody from the Bronx and everybody in New York and everybody that thought that they could rap, period, made the trek to Sugar Hill Records. Right. So that's how Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel got over there. That's how Sequence got there. That everybody came to the place, Sugar Hill Records. So with that being said, it was so much inner tension and, you know, like initially, because everybody was so mad at us because they didn't think we were entitled to be the grand Sugar Hill Gang, the big group of the world and everything. They thought Mel and Scorp, all of them, they didn't like the idea of we were the big dogs. They didn't like that. So, and we didn't like the idea that they didn't like that we was the big dogs because we was justifiably, you know, doing our thing. You know, I was the hottest thing in this fish grease. You know what I'm saying? You know, I know you from the Bronx and I know that, you know, you the real deal. Like I tell people all the time, the first time I heard them rap, I was like, oh, snap, because I wasn't in the New York scene. I had my little Jersey scene. I heard about rapping word of mouth from a cat in Jersey. You know what I mean? So the first time I actually saw New York guys rapping was at a place called Disco Fever in the Bronx on University Avenue. Shout out to Sal, the Fever. And then Flash and them actually came to the studio and they was doing steps in the whole 9 yards and rapping with songs. I was like, oh, yeah. So it was, and then the Funky Four came and Spoonie came and all these different people came. So it was like it was every man for himself. You know, everybody was trying to outdo
everybody was under. I thought my initial thinking was the Sugar Hill when I was little. Anyway, before I got old enough to understand Sylvia stuff, I thought the Sugar Hill Gang had Sugar Hill Records, and everybody else came on the Sugar Hill Gang like we do now. Like, you know, somebody has a Gucci Man has a label, then he signs Young Thug, and they sign the rest of the song. I thought it was like that at first until they came up.
No, we were the premier group. We were the premier group, and then everybody else came, and it was like a tier situation. You know what I mean? And then, of course, you know, we were the premier group and doing our thing. And then when Mel and them came over, Freedom was a record, et cetera, et cetera. Happy Birthday, they had their records. But when they put out the message, they definitely, you know, became, you know, very, very high profile. So then it became Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five. Then we became the major groups, and then everybody else kind of fall in the suit from that point on.
How did y'all take, because by the time the UTFOs and all that and everything started coming in with the drum machines, How did y'all take that compared to like sessions before?
Yeah, well, I tell this story all the time. We cut a record. We did a record called "Kick It Live from 9 to 5." The record actually was written by Mo D. Kumo D wrote those raps to Kick It Live from 9 to 5, because at that point we had tried to do a few records, and this is how crazy things were back in them days. We had done a couple of songs, and the songs really wasn't doing that well. So Sylvia started spazzing out, thinking we didn't have it anymore. But by that time, the Treacherous 3 had come over there. So Mo D was a rapper with the Treacherous 3. You know, everybody knows who Kumo D is. Yep. So now she's, and you know, Mo had this reputation of being, you know, this amazing rapper and whole nine yards. So she commissioned him to write a song for us because she didn't think we had the chops anymore to write. Anyway, we cut this record, and the same process. You know, it was pleasure, doom, 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 and Let's Dance. That it was a combination of those two records.
Oh yeah.
They had a horn section come in. They had strings put on it. They had the whole 9 yards. We did the vocals, and now the record comes out. Now I'm going through my little time in my life, right? And I'm telling you the story to give you the whole. You asked me what my feelings were on this, because by then, you know, Suck MCs had come out and it was boom, 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 boom. It was just drum beats, and it was all of that. You know, it was just straight hardcore. So I'm listening to the Kick It Live, and this, I don't know if I even tell y'all, I'm listening to Kick It Live play on the radio. The record finishes. The DJ says, well, there goes another overly produced song from Sugarhillgang. Kick It Live from 9 to 5.
Oh no.
So imagine my feeling listening to, because I'm thinking we got a hit now, you know, it's playing on WBLS, it's on. I'm like, I'm feeling good about myself. You know, the record finishes, and this is what the DJ says. So that right there can explain to you how I felt during that time, because it changed, man. It changed. You know, it changed. So
yeah, Dallas. Being this, what direction the music industry is heading today, and how it's done changed since, you know, time we started, since when you started. Do you feel comfortable with the direction, or do you like it? You know, by the labels not having as much influence on the artists anymore. Artists can put stuff out on Spotify, YouTube, and all that kind of stuff.
I think that it's a double-edged sword. I think user-generated content fucked up the industry in the sense that that it made it so that songs that were horrible by the standard of what music was at a certain point was able to go to MySpace and was able to go to all these, you know, you can make it on your Mac, send it out. So, you know, distribution for us used to be, you know, here's a truck, here's a CD, here's the thing, here's the blah. You know, that was all crammed into $16 or $20, whatever. When the kids found out that it was instant distribution to your Facebook, to your MySpace back then, it started to make it where the standard got way lower because everybody got GarageBand and everybody got Fruity Loops, and they could just load up the same shit, do the same thing. Nobody's looking for styles anymore. The originality started to go away in a lot of cases because, you know, it became more like, that's why it's 40,000 records a day that's delivered right now compared to, I mean, the times that even when I was recording the TLC stuff and even things like that, if somebody couldn't sing or deliver it, it wasn't happening because somebody had to pay $300,000 to record you, you know? So you really had to believe in that artist, whereas now that gate left and it made it where everybody could put anything out.
Right.
Some of the good parts about that is like when you're a really good artist, you know, if you're really creative, we have the song that we have out now, Shiloh, was, you know, it's a girl that basically was making really creative music and then she just stopped. And because of the Instagram and because of YouTube, Cory was able to go and say, hey, you know, and not only him, Young Thug, a lot of other people have been sampling this girl's stuff, who dropped off the face of the earth, said she don't have anything to do with music or nobody
MIA, no one knows.
MIA, she just jetted, bro. She has millions of records out there sold right now. And I would say for somebody like her, then the delivery of stuff is great because she's a great songwriter, she's a great artist. So for her not to have to stand in the line at Warner Brothers to hope that she get heard, that's great. But I think that it stopped. You know, I think it's getting back to now where people are trying to get more unique in what they do because they're saying, oh man, you know, all of us sound the exact same and we don't really have to. And it's making them now kind of, I think that radio is even, and just people's ears are more accepting of things that's different than we think they are. because they've been so tuned to the same stuff, you know, the whole time. But it's been a double-edged sword, you know.
I think another side of that.
Great, Corey.
How you feel about Corey?
Yeah, I was gonna say another side of that sword, the good side of that sword, because obviously the information age has drastically changed the landscape of the music industry and the creative process. Before the information age, you would have geographical locations, cities where scenes would happen, and this is where new genres would explode, right? And to be exposed to that sound, you would have to live in that city. You'd have to be around it, and you get influenced by it, right? And then it only would hit the ears of the world when like certain parts of that sound would hit the radio. And then the rest of the world would start getting influenced. Other musicians on other parts of the planet would start getting influenced by that sound. And it would take a long time for all that to unfold. Right. But because of the information age, you have sounds from all over the world that are bubbling, coming up instantly online, and you can be a kid in Nebraska listening to some new group in South Africa and immediately getting influenced by that music. And as a result, I believe that music has been able to evolve at a super fast pace, and it's become very eclectic. You listen to the top 40 right now. You've never had the top 40 be more diverse than it has been.
That's true.
This is the most diverse time in music. Everything and anything can be popular. People's taste for music has been expanded and broadened. People are aware of things that are happening everywhere. Of course, it's oversaturated and there's a lot of noise to sift through. But you know, you've got Spotify and these streaming platforms where it's not so much like a payola system and the old gatekeepers aren't there anymore. And you've got, you know, people that really care about music and they love music and they're curating these playlists. And as a result, you get to hear a lot of really cool music, and the consumer is more educated now. They can tell the difference. They can like, this is authentic. This is cool. They're not just spoon fed whatever the top 40 radio stations are shoving down their throat.
Right.
So that's the good side of it.
Right. The thing that kills me is the fact that, like, I have a couple of friends who, you know, work at labels, and I'm not going to call out nobody's name, get anybody in hot water or anything like that. But he was telling me right before COVID, he said that, you know, they was in a board meeting, and they was, you know, going to sign this young artist, a rapper, right? And they said he sounded horrible, man. Horrible. But they had to sign him because he had over 20 million followers on. It was viral. Yeah.
I was in Warner Brothers, and the same thing happened. But it was about Lil Pump, I think, at the time, and they had to do it because he had followers, and the followers, you know, it's an interesting question, because you can have followers, but are they invested in you? You know, it's a different story, because sometimes the followers like the song that's out, but not really invested in the actual artist itself. You know, so I feel like now the thing is that they have any great act that's been great, that's been considered a Beyonce, a Bieber, a Rihanna, TLC. They've had some hands on them. You know, that's different from what's offered by you just doing it to yourself. Even down to Drake, they always had people that had hands on them, development hands, somebody that stuck with them, somebody that was helping them in the studio, somebody that's cultivating how they. Like Rihanna coming from Pond to Replay to Umbrellas, because you have a person like L.A. Reid sitting there going, nope, that's not the right record. This is the right. So it's two different things. When you get to artist development now, if you really have an artist that you believe in, like that can be that way, then you got to keep your hands around them. You got to kind of be diligent in how you guide them and how they dress and what the image is and what we're doing here and there. What they don't benefit from, a lot of the acts that made it and don't know how, is they're going to drop off. And some of those acts could actually stay if they had a person that was with them sustaining them. You know, somebody helped guide you along the way from it.
Right. Yep.
You don't see that as much.
No, because there used to be a time, Dallas, when they used to, the record labels had a budget for grooming artists.
They had to, because you have to. The artist's supposed to be the diamond in the rough. They're not even supposed to. They're supposed to be able to get themselves as far as their talent, right? But how you supposed to look, and what is the best photographer, and what's the best makeup artist for your shoot, and what all of that stuff went into making stars and making people look like not the average person that was around. Now you have, like I said, it's a ton of user generated artists. it saved a lot of kids because this kid would never, he's so bad, he would have never got a shot. He's so horrible, nobody would have let him get into that door.
Right.
Well,
I've seen that happen in a few cases where they had hit records, you know.
I think another thing that's happened because of the information age and social media is it's put so much emphasis on the person's story and their life. And now you have these people that are really, they're just social media stars. They have a big following because they're really good at working social media and they might have a charismatic personality. And then they're like, oh, and I also make music. So they have a fan base that, you know, and I resent this. And it's kind of sad because, you know, it used to be really more about just the music. The music would speak for itself. And of course, you could have a cool look and like you would go through media training and learn how to give a good interview every once in a while. But your life wasn't broadcasted on the internet 24/7. And now it has to be. It's literally like you can't be an artist unless you're good at social media. And in a lot of people in the younger generation, they really do feel in the music world, they do feel like the social media aspect is almost more important than the music itself, which I resent that. I think it's
first thing they ask you. It's crazy. Yes.
I hate it. I actually hate it, man.
The record companies, it's made the actual record companies turn into, when you go to the record company right now, if you could go in there, like before the COVID or whatever, they were dead silent. No music is playing nowhere. You walk in, you get nervous. I'm like, this is making me nervous because nobody's listening to any music. And what are we doing? Is this a hospital? Everyone, except for when I went to London. You go to UK and you walk in there and everybody's playing music. Everybody's opening music. In America, everybody's so paranoid that they're sitting there looking at numbers. And if those numbers right there not happening, they're not willing to help you get to the next spot.
No.
You know?
Yeah, it's definitely yes.
My question for you guys is, so anytime a new genre of music emerges, like a brand new kind of thing, it explodes. And of course you have a whole generation of kids that get influenced by that. And it kind of sounds like that genre of music. You guys are at the forefront of a genre of music, the beginning of a genre of music. And it's a very interesting place to be. Not a lot of artists can say that they were at the beginning of a genre. And I'm always interested to hear if you're an artist that came at the beginning of a genre or you were a trailblazer in that regard. What was your influence? Because there wasn't a lot of stuff like your sound before you. So where were you drawing your influence from to create genre?
That's great. That's a great question. And herein lies what I just said. Our basis, you know, I'm a 60s baby. I was born in 62, exactly. I'll be actually, my birthday's in January, so I got another birthday coming up. So through the 60s, I heard all of that, you know, Temptations and all that Motown stuff. And one of the biggest influences in my life was James Brown. One of the things that James Brown did for me was put out a song called Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. You know, during the civil rights time, that late 60s, early 70s, he put that record out. So it was a lot of pro-blackness during that time. Ohio players, I was extremely motivated by. Rufus, Chaka Khan, she was one of my favorite and still is one of my favorite. And Rufus and that, you know, the whole band situation, like I said, because of the fact that, you know, we all played an instrument and we all were bands, the band was big to me. You know, any band situation was huge to me. So Earth, Wind & Fire was incredible. The Commodores were incredible. You know,
talking
Stevie
about all
Wonder
my favorite
was
music right now.
So that's another reason why, like, when I looked at myself and said, okay, I am now emerging into an aspect of being this person, a recording artist. That was one of the big things that Sylvia wanted to make sure that we were. She said, yes, you guys are rappers and you're making rap records, but you're recording artists and you will, you know, you will go as such. So when you guys are talking about that machine, you know, I had that machine. You know, I had the grooming, I had the conversation. I was taught how to do an interview. I mean, all of these different things. And the reason being is because the people that I was influenced by, the Jacksons, they were, you know, I was like, okay, Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, all of those were the groups that I was like, well, damn, if I'm on, like when I did Soul Train, I knew that the Jackson 5 was on the same stage that I was standing on. You know, I knew that. And at that point, I realized, like, you know what? I might be considered, you know, legit at this point. So that was my influences. Yeah, you guys,
what was your first, let me ask you a question. What was your first rap? Like, what was your first rap influence to make you? Because a lot of people say, you know, they listen to Dolomite or Miles Mabley, or, you know, when I was coming up, I would see Rudy Ray Moore when I was little, going to little fucking theaters or whatever. But I like, what was that first time you be like putting that together? Like, you had to rap before Rappers Delight, right?
Of course, I was rapping. See, that's the thing. I was rapping 15, 16, 17. I was rapping for 2 years in my neighborhood. In Hackensack, Teaneck, and Englewood, I had a little DJ group. It was called Phase 2. So and again, I was 15 when I first started rapping. So at that point, in those days, I wasn't allowed to go back and forth across the bridge to hang out. I had my grandparents were in Mount Vernon and in Brooklyn. So I would go, but I was visiting my grandparents. The first person I ever heard rap was a guy named Mark Green, who was an upperclassman who DJ'd in our neighborhood. I heard him rap. That was my influence, okay? He's a guy now that owns a company called Celebrity Booking Agency. He's a great friend of mine, but he was a guy that I heard at a party rapping. So I walked up to him and said, because I was DJing at the time and I was trying to get parties, that was my hustle. I walked up to him and asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "Man, that's rapping. This is what they doing over in New York." And so I heard it as rhythmic poetry. My influence was just trying to make sense out of what he was doing. He was rapping on top of the music. He was rhyming the words, you know. So I said, okay, he's rhyming the words, so that's poetry. He's doing it in time with the music, so that's the music, the drum aspect of it. And the way that I heard the words is drum beats. And I tell the story a lot because being a drummer, I hear the words as beats, and that was how I started rapping. So there was the only influence I had was a guy that I heard in a house party in Hackensack, New Jersey, and then me trying to figure out how to do it.
That is so cool,
man.
Thanks
for doing this forever.
No doubt. For me, man, you know, it started with my uncle. My uncle, I was a kid. I never will forget. I was out in the yard just playing around, doing normal kid stuff, and my uncle just came home from Vietnam. He fought in the Vietnam War. And, you know, God rest his soul, he's gone now. Died from Agent Orange. But anyway, he sat me down in the car one day and he said, "This is what you need to be listening to." He said, you need to listen to this music right here and get into it. I don't know what made him do it. I don't have not one musical relative in the family. I don't know what made him do it, but that's what he did. And I listened to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and it blew me away, man. I was such a Earth, Wind, and Fire fan, Maurice White fan. You know, I love Maurice White. I listened to Marvin Gaye and stuff like that. And I started out as a producer, and that's what led me to Sugarhill Records. You know, and I worked with a lot of artists. You know, with LL Cool J, Queen Latifah, you know, Rough Ends, A Myth, stuff like that. You know. So what were you using then? What kind of beat machine? The MPC. I was an MPC man. Yeah, I'm a Logic man now. So you know, yeah, I'm a Logic man now. So we doing some. Me and Diamond is working on some stuff right now. For you know, we're doing a song for her and trying to do something for Jacquees. You know, we did a couple of things for that. You know what I mean? So we trying to stay busy, man, during this pandemic. But, you know, that's what led me to being on stage. You know, it was an honor to be on stage with this cat right here, you know, because, you know, he's the quarterback, man. And, you know, he just brings the best out of us every night on stage, you know. It's not, I like what Cory was saying. There's not too many genre starters. Like you say, James Brown started a genre, Sugarhill started a genre. You know what I'm saying? It's not too many genre starters like that when you look at it. And that's an interesting thing to be a part of, bro. Like that's like Coca-Cola.
You know, I'm gonna tell you right now, man, and we gotta kind of wrap this up because we could stay here for 3 hours doing it. But you know, I see it already. I see this already. So I'm gonna be the quarterback again.
Don't get off the phone, Cory, until I get your number because we gonna chop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm
music.
I will say this. 2 things I'll say. One, we need to do a song together. That's all of us. All of us.
That's
We
hard.
need to
Let's
do a
go.
song together.
Absolutely.
And I don't, and they'll tell you, I never do that. I mean, a lot of times it's cheesy to me, like that, but I don't give a damn this time.
I ain't gonna lie, I was thinking that a minute ago. I was like, I don't know how to ask him about
see,
that.
well, then we need to figure it out. No, listen, Cory, Dallas, we need to figure it out. Give your information to Hand and Diamond, and we gonna do this. This is gonna happen, okay?
I just want to say, because actually, it's so interesting to hear you guys talk about your influences, because that era of soul and funk, it's actually making a big comeback right now, and there's a lot of new groups that are influenced by it, trying to make that kind of music, but with like a new future kind of edge to it. And I've been recently working on some stuff with Ty Dolla $ign, and Ty Dolla $ign.
I love Ty Dolla $ign, man.
Okay, so Ty's a really incredibly talented musician, and he's all about he plays guitar and bass. His dad actually played in a funk band in the 80s. It's called Lakeside. And Ty Dolla $ign's dad was in Lakeside. Okay, so he grew up with the funk in him, right? So I'm working on this stuff with Ty right now, and he wants to bring that back. So we just did this song with Thundercat and Ty Dolla $ign and Channel Trace. So, and it's straight up, it's a house record, but all the guitar is live, all the bass is live. Thundercat played the funkiest bass line on there, and it's a merge between house music, soul, and funk. And this is like, and Ty wants to do a whole album like this, and this is like my wet dream, because I love soul and funk and R&B.
Man. We gotta do it. We gotta do it. Cory,
so
Dallas,
I want to bring the live instruments in. I want to bring you guys verses in.
We gotta do a project. We gotta do a project. That's the first thing. That's the first thing. We got not just a song. We got to do a project, because there's so many different avenues that we could go into just between all of us. And the music, the musicalness. Yes, with the music, the music, the energy of music that's between all of us, man. And then, like I said, Mike is incredible too. When you get a chance to vibe with him, he's even much more. That in itself is one thing. And the other thing is, I have to say this, and I'm keep saying this. The more that I talk to people of your stature, Dallas and Cory, the more that the realization of the significance of what Mike, Hank, and myself did, and have done. I really didn't understand it. I really didn't. I'll be honest with you. For many years, it was a different thing to me. I was so removed from it. But just like I say, every time we do this show, it's like a picture, just keep getting clearer and clearer and clearer, man. This thing is so amazing, man. I mean, I have so much respect for you guys. I mean, it was like you have no idea. It was amazing
when they told me that. It's funny when they asked me about doing it. For one, I didn't know you guys were gonna be on it. They told me I was gonna be talking to somebody in Dubai about Sugarhill, and I was like, okay, because I'm so Sugarhill, let's do it, whatever. So when I saw you on here in the first place, that's why I was like, whoa, hold on.
I know.
Hold on, we doing this for real. Now let me start telling you how you affected my life.
and see what I'm saying? This is the thing that is so great for me, man. I had no clue. I really didn't. I had no clue how much energy that the world had for Mike and myself and Hank. I just didn't know. And now this is, I'm so moved and I'm so excited and I'm so thankful that, first of all, I'm thankful for them two cats right there. And I'm so thankful for Mike, because Mike has been my the other side of the coin for me. You know what I mean? He's the passion. If I'm the grit and the drig and the dig and the hustle, Mike is the passion and the love and the deal. You know what I'm saying? Mike is that for me. And this right here, man, this is going to be something that I'm going to remember. And like I said, I really hope that there's an opportunity to make something happen out of this. This is a great thing. This has been amazing.
You guys really are legends, and it is very rare to be someone that can claim to actually have started a genre of music. It only happens every couple of generations, and you guys. Just to be here chatting with you guys and hearing your stories, it's a real honor for me. And if we were to make it, I think that would be such an honor.
I love it, man. I really do. Thank you so much, guys. Dallas and Cory. I mean, thank you for being a part of this. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the future, man. I'm gonna let I want to just I'm gonna close it out and say I'm gonna say, listen, man, this has been the Sugar Hill Gang podcast. We thank you so much. Before we go any further, I gotta also say to you guys, because we do this for all our guests, you are now officially a Sugar Hill Gang part of family. You're Sugar Hill Gang family. You are now officially part of the family. So from here on out, when we say, what's up, Cuzzo, you got to respond back. What's up, Cuzzo? What's up, Cuzzo?
What's up, Cuzzo?
There you go, Cuzzo. And to the world, we love you for listening. We thank you so much for being a part of this thing, man. It's been a journey. This is the Sugar Hill Gang podcast. I am your host, the MAS, the TER, the G with a double E, the Master G, and I'm also here with my man. Say goodnight, T Dynasty.
Good night, T Dynasty.
Say goodnight, Hen Dog.
Wakanda forever, baby.
Wakanda forever. Say goodnight, Cory.
Good night, guys.
Say goodnight, Dallas.
Good night, Dallas.
It's your boy DA signing off, man. Good night.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much. I'm so
Dallas,
honored to be on this show.
Cory.
I love y'all.
Much love.
And this is the Sugar Hill Gang podcast. Thanks, y'all. And we are out.
Wow.